Welcome to Between Two Bookshelves. I'm Jasmine Wolfgram, and this is Dr. Kelly Hall. So, hi, Dr. Hall. How many years have you been teaching at Ohio Northern?
I have been here a full 10 years now.
Wow, that's actually a really, really great long time. So you've seen a lot of changes throughout the years.
Yes, of course.
Yeah. What has been the biggest change, do you think, you've seen at Ohio Northern since your time being here?
Do you mean just in general?
In general, yeah.
I think a lot of how students learn has pretty dramatically changed from when I was here versus where we are now, especially with COVID and stuff like that. And that's not meant in like a negative way or anything. It's just how we actually learn and take in information. It's very different now than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, and that's something I'm noticing even like tutoring in a few years, that like people learn in very different formats. So.
Yeah. Like what worked 10 years ago with most students does not work now. And so that makes the job, I guess, a little bit more interesting because you get to kind of change along with what you're doing or where the students are at. So I would say that overall that's the biggest change.
Okay, excellent. So what do you do beyond your time here at Ohio Northern? Like, what are some hobbies that you embrace?
Well, I'm very fortunate in the fact that most of my family and like my support network is very close by, so I get to spend a lot of time with my family and my friends. We, do a variety of different things. I'm big into football, so we go to a lot of football games or kids' sporting events. Like to go down to Yellow Springs and stuff, hiking pretty frequently and things like that. So it's been a positive thing here because I have a big support network.
Yeah, that's amazing. What's Yellow Springs?
It's down by Dayton. It's just a very small, I guess, kind of suburb outside of Dayton. And hills and it's not flat like it is up here, and there's different woods and paths and things like that you can walk and hike on.
Okay, that's
it's
awesome.
It's change of pace.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before.
You have it? It's curious. Really cool. You should go.
Okay.
They've got a lot of little crunchy shops and stuff like that.
Okay. Like metaphysical stores?
Well, that's hippie shops.
Okay.
Not necessarily metaphysical.
Okay, cool. So I tutor a lot of students, and sometimes I get excuses for why they're not coming to tutoring, and the excuses can be quite fantastic in terms of just how crazy they are. What's the best excuse you've ever gotten for a late assignment?
For a late assignment or missing class?
Ooh, missing class too, if you have a better one for that.
Honestly, I can tell you, I think it was about 3 years ago. It was when we were in hybrid instruction, so it was a group of engineers, and basically they were coming to lab once every 3 weeks. And so I had a particular student who sent me an email the day of his once every 3 weeks lab and tell me that he had a really hard time lately getting into his barber, and he was going to miss lab that day so he could go get a haircut.
No, a 3-hour lab for a 1-hour haircut?
Yeah.
Oh.
By far I don't think I have ever laughed so hard at a reason for a student missing class. I was just, a haircut? If that was the best, first of all, props to you for being honest about that.
I can't believe you just didn't lie.
It was just like, I've had a hard time getting into my barber. I still have the email.
Oh,
it was good enough.
You should frame that. Yeah, that's like the best excuse I've ever heard.
It was pretty great.
So have you ever met anyone in your field that you geeked out over? Like anyone in chemistry that you were like, oh my gosh, I heard about you in school, and then you got to meet them?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. I remember we went to. So I was in a boron-based research group, and my PhD advisor was in the lineage of H.C. Brown, which the hydroboration oxidation reaction.
Yes.
And because of the circle he ran in, he got to talk a lot with Suzuki, Negishi, a bunch of the different coupling reactions.
The named reactions.
Yes,
yeah,
and so we went to a very specific boron-based conference while I was in grad school, and Suzuki and Negishi were both there. And I have a picture of our research group with both of them, but it was totally 1,000% a fangirl moment. And I will be very honest with you, I feel really nerdy saying this out loud. So I'm super excited. This is going to be on a video that goes to everyone.
I know, that's great. Yeah, I haven't quite had that moment yet. Doing some grad school visits, I had a moment wow, this guy's a bigwig, and he's talking to me and is so down to earth. But yeah.
Well, and then as you kind of build that relationship within your new research group, you'll figure out that there are other people kind of working in that area, that there's a good community or strong communication between the groups. And then as you travel and go to meetings and things like that, you'll get to start meeting these people and having your own little fangirl moments.
I'm so excited. Here we go, grad school. Okay, so Dr. Hall, this next question is the most important question I'll ask you this entire talk. If you could have a superpower, what superpower would it be?
Time travel.
Time travel? Ooh, yeah. I wish I had that one.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. What would you do with your superpower?
Travel in time.
Like, would you, like, what moment in time would you go back to?
Why do you have to pick just one?
I'm done with you. So, Dr. Hall, I know that you complete some research here at Ohio Northern. What research is it? Like, what are you doing in the research lab?
Here recently, a lot of my focus has been more on SOTL, which is basically looking at different ways to teach and students learn, and so focusing on trying to develop activities and stuff for courses that really harness that, and then pulling data and things like that from that area. Moving forward, will probably be more in the lab along the lines of sustainability and looking at microplastics isolation and quantification, which you'll be helping with.
I know, exactly. That's why I'm really excited about it. So, yeah, I'm really excited to work on my capstone enhancement project with you, which is going into the lab and actually doing a microplastic seminar with other people. So
yeah, I think that will be really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Especially to bring ordinary people in to
right.
of do something different.
Right, people who do not have a scientific background and can kind of get an idea of what environmental impact is going on right now and what kind of environmental crises we're in. So
important stuff.
I would agree.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm a student. I'm studying chemistry. You study chemistry. If you could give an advice to a student that would have been in your position, how many years ago? I'm sorry. How do you remember that? So,
a while. It's been a while.
We'll
just leave it with that. We don't have to go into the number of years.
Okay.
Practice. That would be one of my biggest pieces of advice to students, is to practice what you're learning and not just take everything that you get in lecture or during course time as surface level. Spend your time actually practicing and investing in the skills you're trying to develop in your courses.
Okay.
I wish I had spent more time doing that kind of stuff.
More doing the actual practice of everything.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of what we are trained for in K through 12 is read, in some aspects memorize, and college is a big switch from that, right? We don't want you to just sit down and memorize facts and memorize numbers, right? We want you to start developing a skill where you can communicate what you're doing, but also follow a process and take that process and apply it to something else. And you can really only get from point A to point B by practicing. And looking back on college, I feel like there were several courses I would have done far better on if I'd spent the time practicing and trying to develop skills instead of just, I'm going to memorize this problem or memorize how this one worked.
Yeah, what class in particular would you want to do more practice problems in?
I feel like I really wish, mostly because it's one area within even my own larger discipline, that I had spent a little bit more time trying to understand is physical chemistry.
Yeah. I thought that was going to be your
It
answer.
is. It's like the one area where there are certain things I'm like, oh yeah, I get that. But when you get into the very specific examples and kind of tethering things apart, I just didn't spend the time investing in that skill.
Yeah, I mean, everything's either 0 or 1 as the answer. So come on, Dr. Hall.
I mean, honestly, I'm going to be very honest with you. When I took PChem exams in college, if I didn't know the answer, I put 7. And
no,
looking
it's either
back
0
on it,
or
but
1.
I didn't spend the time practicing and understanding. I tried to just memorize, and because I wasn't as interested in the topic. But if that could have been a completely different outcome if I had. I mean, I didn't do badly in it, but I certainly, many years later, don't remember much from it.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I am in a position right now where I'm about to attend grad school. that I really want to like think about it and get as much advice and everything that I can get out of the faculty in the chemistry department, because for me going forward, I just want to be like the best chemist I can possibly be. So getting to talk to someone like you is just so helpful in my development.
Right. Well, and I think a lot of things have changed with education, right? When I was in college and going through chemistry, I mean, everything was a traditional lecture. It was someone standing at the board writing a bunch of stuff down, you're scurrying, trying to write it, and then go out later and apply these to problems, which is why a lot of times you end up, you know, in this memorization loophole.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, now, like, the type of instruction you're getting is much more hands-on. You know, very few of us within chemistry do the traditional lecture. You're looking at flipped classrooms, Pogles, you know, a bunch of different things going on. So how you're learning that material is very different.
Okay. So Dr. Hall, why ONU?
Well, a lot of reasons. So first of all, when I was finishing up grad school, and I kind of made the decision at that point that I wanted to go into teaching, and I wasn't going to necessarily go the industrial route. One of the first things was I knew I wanted to go to a PUI, so a primarily undergraduate institution. I didn't want to be at another large school, and that was just mostly because at that time that was my only experience. You know, I graduated high school, I went to the University of Cincinnati, which is a very large population, and then I went to grad school at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, so again, very large school, and I knew that if I was going to go into teaching, I wanted to be at a PUI where classes were smaller and you could get, you know, those types of interactions and build those types of relationships and stuff. And so that's basically where I knew that that was the direction I wanted to go. And then as grad school started to come closer to an end, at that point I had spent about a decade away from home, and a lot of things had happened. And what I really wanted to do was come back and be closer to my family and nephews and nieces and, you know, my friends and my support network. And so it actually is kind of entertaining how it happened. At the time, so I knew I was going to be finishing grad school soon, and there weren't a lot of jobs available in the state of Ohio at that time. And so what I did was I sat down and I wrote down the name of every PUI in the state of Ohio. And I looked every single chemistry program up, and I emailed every single program chair, basically saying, like, I'm moving back to Ohio. I would like to, you know, if you have a position available, let me know. And ONU was the very first one that I had emailed because I grew up in Wapakoneta, so I didn't grow up very far from here. And I think it was about 2 or 3 months later, Dr. Gray actually sent me an email and was like, hey, we have a job opening if you want to apply for it. And I came here, I loved it, I loved the program. It was close to home, it was a PUI.
Checked off all
right,
boxes,
there was a lot of growth coming out of the program, and it was a good fit.
Yeah, and we're so grateful to have you here too. Yeah, like you're one of my favorite professors, so I just feel so grateful to actually have you on campus and to not only have a professor but to have a mentor and someone I can go to talk to. It makes me really happy. No, don't cry. It's a good thing.
But you're leaving,
happy
so
tears.
It makes me sad.
I know. I'll keep in contact with you. Like, I'm going to grad school. I have goals. There are things I want to do, but like, you know, I'm not going to forget where I came from because I'm very grateful for all of you guys and everything that you've done for me. So,
of course.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Dr. Hall, and thank you all for joining us for another episode of Between Two Bookshelves. Thank you.